Welcome in, all you members of the Duval Devout. This is Kyle Nash, the student game of Fans First Sports Network, and welcome to this edition of the Duval Dive. And listen, I'm trying to do this beast without coffee. Let me know in the comments if I still have enough energy for you. But with all that being said, the NFL draft is rapidly approaching. And as we walk through the conversations that we have, by the way, if you haven't checked out our triumvirate mock drafts, our three-man mock drafts to simulate the front office with Jamal St. Cyr and Tony Wiggins, get a hold of your life. Do both those things, please. It's a great time. We had a great time. You'll have a great time if you listen to it. But this particular instance is more about evaluating what we think the team needs for the Jacksonville Jaguars are. Now, we've alluded to some of these things in some of our other mock drafts, other draft episodes, but to really get a clear kind of explanation of how we feel about the different needs and the different position groups for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Travis D. Holmes and I decided that this was the best opportunity for you to see our thought process, what we think's most important, what we think's less important, and kind of how some of our logics have applied themselves in the past week. Maybe if you've wondered at any point how we're so smart or what drugs we may be on as we do these various mocks, this episode will help bring that insight. And please feel free to cheer or jeer at anything you find. But first, before we get off the ground, I'm not trying to do all this by myself because, hey, we've established I'm a terrible scout. That's why I bring in the man I know as my personal champion, Big Cat Country's own Travis D. Holmes. What's good with you, fam? What's up?
Good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday, y'all.
And hopefully we make this Good Friday a good Friday by showing you a little bit of Jacksonville Jaguar stuff in the morning. So without any further build-up, man, we have the tiers built. Travis has built this lovely, lovely board for us to show you what it is we have going. And for those that are listening on the pod, we have these tiers: essential, important, useful, nice to have, luxury, or no chance. Ain't no way the Jags are going for this. So I think I kind of want to focus on the no chance first just to get that out of the way. So I feel like these are hard rule kind of things. Like, for one, I don't think they're going out to replace Cam Little in the draft. I don't think that's going to happen. So just in the same fashion that I did it with our draft 3 game grade from 2024, I'm getting the kicker out of the way. I'm thinking that's a no chance tier. I think you're in that same boat too, right? Right, Travis?
I think we are in agreement. Yes, we're not replacing Cam Little anytime soon. Absolutely. Let's go Cam Little, kicker Cam to the no chance bucket because I feel very confident in that kicking room, and I'm not replacing him with this upcoming NFL draft.
And I think similarly we can say the same for at least one other position with Trevor Lawrence on the roster. I think quarterback is a safe no chance bet as well, right?
See, that feels a little different to me though, because I would at least acknowledge that I view the punting situation. I think we're probably going to be fine with Logan Cook. Like we're good there. I will view Logan Cook in that no chance category again because I think he's a really dang good punter, and you're not. There's no reason to make that change, especially when you're keeping on the special teams coordinator. That's one of the few people that you actually chose to keep on. I just don't think you're going to shake that up just too much. But as far as quarterback is concerned, you still have the backup quarterback situations because it's not just Trevor. It's It's how do you feel about Nick Mullins? The fact that he knows the offense is great, but there's the backup quarterback conversation. I might even be able to argue putting that into that luxury category. That's the reason I say that. But
okay, well, let's lock up punter. I think we're clear there that's a no chance. But you bring up an interesting point with if there's a quarterback that falls to a particular point, and I don't really know who it would be. Like, let's say there's a Will Howard in the 5th round, or we've been the Syracuse guy. His name McDonough. I forget his name off the bat, but
Syracuse.
There's been a guy that's out there that has fallen in our mocks at 6th or 7th, and if the Jags decide he's better than Mullins, I can see that being a late round thing. Think kind of a Brock Purdy kind of a situation, that kind of scenario. So because playing what I'll call the Dumb and Dumber defense, so you're telling me there's a chance I can back you claiming quarterback for luxury. That makes sense. I hear what you're telling me.
So that's my logic there. So that's why I would lean quarterback is a luxury. It's maybe even close to nice to have, but whatever. I mean, if your starting quarterback goes down, you're probably cooked. But on the off chance you get lightning in the bottle, you might be all right. So I think that's a luxury as far as the NFL draft is concerned. But that will let you know how they feel about this organization, though.
No, I agree entirely. If you find somebody, he has to be very intangibly rich. No, I got to do it once an episode. I feel like in this off season,
it's worth it.
But yeah, let's go to I'm gonna skip running back for now because I think that's a better conversation. Let's go to tight end because this is one that I think I've differed from a lot of fans. You have had your movements, all of this. Like I feel like we are going there. I see you guys jumping in the comments. We'll get to you guys in a minute. But for the tight end conversation, so here's where I'm at, and I think I've said this before. There's no tight end that hurls themselves off the board to me that I feel like is an immediate fit for what it appears that Coach Holmes is looking for, right? And I say that because of the departure with Evan Ingram and all that. We don't have to rehash that. So I said on our initial mock draft, I'm happy with the UDFA. So for me, I'd put tight end luxury, but I know I'm aggressive with that. Where are you?
Oh, so that's fun. All right. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a luxury, but I'm right there. Like I'm in between that line of the tight end room as it currently stands with Brenton Strange, with Hunter Long, with what was the last one? The recent free agent addition. Goodness.
Sure. It's not Farrell. I had the name wrong.
No. Basically, it was two free agent tight ends. I'm drawing a blank right now, but nevertheless, the three tight ends. I'm fine with Brenton Strange, who's a true tight end, being your starting tight end option with Hunter Long, and third tight end, as your blocking options that may be able to give you a little bit in the passing game. I'm generally fine with that. Not to mention, you're also talking about a Liam Cohen offense that generally doesn't lean too heavily on the tight end by plan. And by what I mean by plan is they did lean heavily on the tight end in Tampa Bay because they lost two of their starting wide receivers for much of the season. I mean, you lost goodness gracious, Mike Evans for 3 games. You lost even Cade Otton. You lost for a few games. You lost Chris Godwin for 7 games. Like that was the reason they had to lean on them. But generally, by plan, that is not their goal. That is not their idea, from my understanding, just looking at their history. So with that being said, I would consider that probably, nice to have, but I'm probably going to lean with you like in that luxury category because I don't think they're going to use these tight ends very much in that way. Like I think they'll be more effective on the field as far as blocking is concerned, but I'm not sure they're going to put up the stats these fantasy football guys are talking about necessarily. They may be more important to the team than being important to the stat sheet. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense there. I'm going to bring in the comments here because I think it's very relevant to this particular position. Storm the Desert jumps in. Jags need talent. They need to stop settling and give it themselves. Okay players are good players, and that good players are great players. And yeah, that's a conversation we've had on this show. Robert adds in, we need starters this year. That's accurate. We're going to talk about that plenty, I'm sure. But the part I want to get to here, the predictable blocking tight ends. I don't necessarily know that it's predictable for Brenton Strange to be on the field with the guys that we currently see on that roster, right?
I think he's referencing Hunter Long and Johnny Munt when he says the predictable blocking tight ends. I think he's viewing them more like the Luke Farrell kind of mold of tight end, where they're probably not running many routes. They're just more. If they're on the field, this is maybe a 3rd and 1 situation, or this is going to be highly likely to be a running situation. That's my interpretation of that anyway.
Yeah, well, right. And I feel like, I'll put it this way. I feel like even Brenton Strange, who is a better athlete than the other two, that's why we assume he's starting between the trio, right? The the chances of him being asked or having a specific play called for him is probably higher. But I feel like in general, the tight end is a safety valve in general more anyway. So I think that predictability piece is far less drastic than if you have, let's say, an Evan Ingram and then you bring in Brenton Strange like that. But it's a good thing to think about.
Sure.
I mean, predictability is something we've been trying to avoid, and that comes all the way from the top with Shad Khan talking about defense. So I think there's some there. Strong comments once again. I love our fan base, man. So great.
Let it do, though.
Where you want to head next, Travis? I feel like there's
so just to knock it out, just to get into the meat and potatoes of this conversation, like special teams. I feel like we're getting a little bit closer because that's something that the Jacksonville Jaguars in previous years took very, very, very serious. And I'm not saying special teams doesn't matter. I'm not saying it's not serious. Right. I'm just saying that if you're talking about a 4th round draft pick, we probably wouldn't want to be saying, hey, this guy's being brought in specifically to be a returner or specifically to be a gunner or just to play, the core special teamer. If you're doing that, your team better be set. And I mean like Super Bowl contender set. If you're not, you're the 2024 Jaguars, you have some real serious conversations that need to be had about your team building process. Right. So I say that to say special teams, cool. It's nice to have. It's a luxury, whatever you want to call it. But if you're wasting your prime draft picks in that position room, with getting rid of Devin Duvernay, you have Parker Washington who's there. You have Keelan Robinson who was again, what was he, a 4th or 5th round draft pick last year in 2024, and those should generally, philosophically, they should be your returning options. I would hope that the Jacksonville Jaguars are not wasting, those draft picks on guys who aren't going to be able to give you something significant or even moderately serious on your defensive backfield, on your linebacking group, whatever it may be. So I'm kind of in that. It feels like a luxury pick for where the Jacksonville Jaguars team is right now.
I think you're misapplying the position group such that it is, and I'm very lightly insulted that you've already assumed I'm going to agree with you on this. He said jokingly.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I
think the problem is, my first instinct is to say useful, because here's the thing about special teams. Nobody picks special teams or just a special teams kick returner guy generally. I completely understand that. However, how somebody computes into how they contribute as a new player, I get it. Your top round picks are meant to be starters immediately. You start getting that 3rd or 4th round range. If they're a utility guy that can take returns while they're developing into the offense, like a Parker Washington, like a Devin Duvernay, or even a little bit better. I'm not saying you draft Duval Pat Bryant out of Illinois to return kicks, but we had some conversations about running backs at 3 or 4, 4 or 5, probably fairer to say, and about their role in returning kicks in this new kickoff format that is the XFL version, right? So I think luxury is off the board. I can hear the argument for useful, which probably means, as I say it, I know we're going to land on nice to have as kind of the compromise. And I think not that I'm asking you to do this, but like if there was like useful and a half, that's kind of where I put it,
Well, as it currently stands, I'm like, well, the fact of the matter is Keelan Robinson wasn't able to give you very much as far as developing as a running back. So we are, for the most part, specifically looking at him like a returner for the moment. At least Parker Washington, to your point, was able to give you something in both areas, which is why I don't solely look at him as a special teams guy. But there are some of these guys who are like, you've had the Tim Jones, you've had the Keelan Robinson, you've had the Devin Duvernays. And I know we're not trying to look at him like that, but the fact of the matter is Devin Duvernay gave you very little as an actual receiver in the 2024 season. Right. So we're talking about guys who were on the roster in application. For the most part, they were solely just returners. They were just that. And they were just gunners or just guys who were playing on the core 4 special teams units. So I'm unfortunately going to look at them like that until I see that you're going to have a plan and develop them into actual contributors on the defense and in real snaps, in material snaps. And that's where I'm looking at it like. So I'm with you. If there's a plan to do that, to actually use these guys in multiple areas. But until I see it, that's kind of where I'm at. Like,
Well,
Keelan Robinson is a special teamer until he's not.
Well, if we're evaluating need, you also lost two of the guys that were the best at it on the roster. That's kind of where I'm coming from as well. You mentioned Duvernay and Jones. You and I have both written extensively on both our sites, be it Fans First or Big Cat Country, during the preseason about top performers and their special teams contribution. That was Jones. That was Duvernay. They go.
Right.
So that kind of raises it as a need to me. This is why I have that conversation about useful, because if Keelan Robinson ain't it, and they end up promoting, air quotes, Parker Washington because Gabe Davis has shown that he isn't healthy enough to go at the dollar amount that he's at. Yeah. I mean, you got, that's why I have to put it at the very least. It's got to be above luxury. So. Anyway,
right, so you're putting it next to half category.
Yeah, I'll compromise with you. I want useful.
I like compromising.
I see nice to have. It's let's go, Travis.
So to anyone who's listening or watching on tiermaker.com, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Duval Dive Jacksonville Jaguars needs tier list. So feel free, while we're doing it, make your own. Share it on the socials. Let us know what you think. Let us know in the comments. If you disagree in an area that we're at, please let us know. And we're here to have that conversation, and we're here to have that engagement, because at the end of the day, we all have opinions, and our opinion may be different than yours. That doesn't make it right or wrong. It's all opinions.
Let me throw a few comments in here. Quickly, with Tappa mentions Gunnar Helm from Texas as a tight end. Yeah, we've got him around that point in some of our mocks. I think that would, if it goes that low and you have a guy that compels you to pick him because he's just too good to pass up for the BPA, best player available, I got no problem. Excuse me with that. Corner better be in a central category. He's coming for you, Travis.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll get there. DeAndre Prince and Daniel Thomas are going to be runners moving forward. That's possible. I won't rule that out. Let's see. In here, Gabe Davis is a player that's going to be a rotational player, making starter money thanks to Bulky. Yeah, no, we've had that conversation. And again, without knowing how healthy he is, it's hard for me to say yay or nay, but that possibility certainly on the board. And then lastly, real quick from Robert, Dewey is the gunner. I mean,
Dewey is the gunner. Hey man, you never know. You might up around and look around at the end of training camp, and all of a sudden Dewey might be your starting safety. You never know.
You know, since you've taken it there, I feel compelled to have a conversation about the safety group. Let's go there first. So, I mean,
let's talk about it.
Obviously, Dre Cisco's departure puts this up into the top 3 tiers. Moment one, right? There is no way he is going to just get ignored. We've had good performances in closing, but overall, this defense has been shattered in the past 2 seasons due to injuries or what have you, is moving on.
Right.
I think the safety position is overlooked in the NFL. So it makes essential a difficult to achieve. But the reason why I feel like the Jags have to get at least one is because of all the departure and injury that they've dealt with so far. I get it. They've got Darnell Savage still on the roster.
The roster.
In theory. I'm with you. I think he packs up at some point. They have gotten replacements in the building. So I'm not gonna mess with that. I'm gonna put important for safety. I feel like, because at the end of the day, essential means if they go without drafting the spot, they're completely screwed. I don't think that's true. They would get much better.
Interesting.
Rather than be completely screwed. I think important is the placement.
So I could be biased. Matter of fact, I probably am, because again, I'm the Mr. DB guy, and I'm very critical generally of bad DB play, and I've seen enough bad defensive back play lately in the Jacksonville that I would probably say I'm done with this. It's no different than O-line for me in a lot of ways. Like if I think there is like actual issues with the guys playing the scheme and not having the skill set to appropriately play the scheme that you're setting your DC up for failure. I thought the same thing originally with Mike Caldwell. I still believe the same thing happened much of 2024 with Ryan Nielsen for all of his faults. I don't think the guys that he was given were able to appropriately run his scheme. I would hate to see Anthony Campanelli start off in his rookie season, his inaugural season, in that same situation. I view it as essential. I view another safety in the first few rounds of this NFL draft, or if they don't do it, they're grabbing someone like a Julian Blackmon from the Colts. Like I view it to that level of urgency because we've seen what a busted coverage from your safety. We saw it way too many times. I'm talking probably like 7-8 times throughout the 2024 season. And that's me thinking of like one player. I'm not even talking about someone like Antonio Johnson or whoever it may be that also had their additional issues and growth. Like, so I'm putting it in that essential category 10 times out of 10 that they need to get another safety to run what I believe will be something closer to that Vic Fangio cover 8, cover 4, basically 4 deep and rotating safety kind of situation. So I think they'll need to have a pretty solid, pretty good safety option first few rounds of the draft, or I think we're going to have some problems.
That's not bad. And I was there for a bit until I really started to think about it. And for me, we'll get to another position later that I think is the bigger problem. That's part of why you're struggling at safety, right?
No, I got you. I got you. Mm-hmm.
But I think this comment by Tapa makes it a great point here too. Safety is so deep. If we get 1-2, safety class is so deep.
Yeah.
If we can get one on day 2, we definitely can get one on day 3. And he mentions Lathan Ransom, Billy Bowman, Malachi Moore, all guys that have come up entirely in our mock drafts. Again,
I'm still thinking Billy Bowman is going to be a late day 2 guy. I don't know if I'm wrong. I'm wrong, but I just have a feeling that
he mentioned day 2. I think. Like, is he saying that? Oh, okay.
Oh no, I think he was saying Bowman was a day 3 guy. And I'm like, I thought he was a late day 2 guy, but nevertheless, wherever he lands,
with Malachi Moore, Lathan Ransom in day 3, has either of us have had in our mocks at various times. I think that's acceptable, and the fact that exists, the fact that you can move forward without a top 3 pick to fill the gap nicely is why I go from essential to an important. I would prefer to say essential and a half. Does that make sense?
So we're right at that line. We're right at the line of important versus essential. I'll give you that, but I personally think that that safety is closer to essential because I'm probably going to have a disagreement with you on where cornerback lands. And
I don't know about that. But we'll see.
Oh, okay.
I like what you're previewing, and I'm with you. That could go either way because I think you're thinking one thing, but you've changed your mind in some places, and with new information. I'm not saying you're
new information. That's really it. So I'm going to go with important. I'll land with you there.
Oh, okay.
If we can get to the next one, I think. But no, I think it's all right. I don't need to argue about that because I think at the end of the day, whether it's important or essential, you understand about the putting down. You understand that we're saying it's up there, and they need to get one moderately early in this draft. And I'm not talking about the late guys who you think might develop. I mean, a guy who's at least show you proof of concept because it's the last guy on the field, and one mistake equals 7 points. It is what it is.
Yeah, well, and I mean, by then so much has to break theoretically. Yeah, I mean that's another point. But yeah, and like I'll say this: saying nice to have. That's a little nice too lax, buddy. No, I can't go there.
Nice to have with the safety. That's what we had last year. It was nice. It was nice when you thought you won the game, and then all of a sudden you give up a busted coverage against Miami, and the season went downhill from there. Like, nice to have. We ain't there, bro.
Tapa talks about your love for the DB room. The safety is important. So Robert appears to agree with us. So there's that. We'll leave that. So where were you planning on? Because if you're wanting to continue,
we were already in the DB room. Let's just continue with the DB room, and let's get through that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So for those who don't see these icons, that is Darrelle Revis and Deion Sanders in the Cowboys jersey. So we're talking corners. We're talking corners. But yeah, man. So I don't know how you feel, and And I want to give you the option to kind of go first on this one because
Yeah. Okay.
I
Well,
have some strong feelings in this room.
I feel like your answer is obvious. That's why I was going to have you lead it, but maybe I could be wrong. So I keep watching the short from our 2024 regradings. Check it out if you haven't. And I'm still well aware that I don't know if it's from trauma that spurred from your youth or whatever it is, but you still have your issues with Jarian Jones, which I can't account for. That being said, there's a reason why I pound the table hard for Travis Hunter to be the top pick if he's there.
Yeah.
Essential and a half is where I sit, but there have been some off-season moves made, some other guys brought in. If a corner isn't drafted in this draft, I think it's a mistake, period. You have to have at least one. We've said on this draft, on this show many times, you've said specifically you want to see 4 defensive backs. If you get a corner in the top 3 rounds, I'm good.
Top 3? Okay.
But yeah, if you get a corner in the top 3 rounds, I feel good about that. But are you done if you don't get one later in the bottom 4? And that's, I think, the question, right?
All right. So I ain't gonna lie to you. Before we started this conversation, safety was without question essential to me, and corner was without question important to me. And as we've had this conversation, I'm being real. Like that's exactly where I started this conversation 26 minutes ago. And as we currently stand, I'm probably leaning towards putting corner in that important category, but I think it's important and a half, unfortunately. Because of the injury history of one Tyson Campbell, who's had one healthy season throughout his entire career as it currently stands. So it feels more like a when he gets injured, not if he gets injured. And when he does get injured, that hamstring, that ankle, whatever the soft tissue thing looks like, you don't want to have a 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round guy that you're just praying is going to develop, or you're just praying is ready, because if he needs 6 months, it's no different than the Ryan Nielsen conversation we had last year. If they needed 8 games to get acclimated, then you're cooked. That's what you're looking at right now. If you were in a situation where these guys are injured and they need time to develop and they're just not ready yet, then you don't want your season defensively to be cooked all because you didn't get one of the top guys who were closer to being ready. And because of that, I have to push that thing that I deem to be closer to important into that essential category. We don't have the injury thing to also add into the conversation, that safety at least.
No, the injury bug defense is a fine one. I am okay with you pushing corner into essential. Frankly, you need more of them than safeties too. So there's that conversation to be had. I get it. If bro,
Lord,
we'll get to him in a minute.
So, he is so high on our DB room. Lord Jesus, help me, Lord.
And I know. Robert jumps into. Don't forget DeAndre Prince. We kind of are, because he hasn't shown us anything, and we don't know what he is as a product yet. Be clear about that.
I don't know what he is, and with my expectation or my understanding, my prediction, my projection that this Jacksonville Jaguars defense is going to be more zone, then it's hard for me to try to lean on how guys are going to develop that are, for the most part, man corners. They were brought in to be man corners. They were literally brought in because of how the frequency that they played man in college. And now we're having to go back and be like, all right, well, who's the better zone corners? All right, well, that's Tyson Campbell. He's absolutely that. Cool. But he's absolutely a great zone corner. But then you have the other guys like Ajarian, who's a great man corner. So I'm trying to just figure out how these guys are going to develop when they're asked to do something different. Maybe they're asked to do something closer to what they did under Mike Caldwell and less of what they did under Ryan Nielsen. Who the heck knows? I played corner for a defense, and we lost our defensive coordinator and had to go to a defense that played a lot of zone. And people think that it should just be easily interchangeable, and they're not. Had this conversation with John Shipley about like a year ago after one of the games when he was talking about his projections for the DB room. And I'm like, dude, it's just so different. Like, I thought I was good at man, and I wasn't as good at zone, and vice versa. Some guys are just good at being both. And there's no assumptions that I'm going to make for a guy who was a college man corner to be asked to play maybe 70%, 80% zone. So because of that, I don't have expectations for Prince. I don't have expectations necessarily for Jari, and I'm just going to see where it lands. And wherever it lands is where it lands. But I don't think this coaching staff with the new regime and the new system have the luxury to be like, yeah, we're going to be fine on the development of these other guys that we didn't bring in to play a whole different defense.
I'll say this. If they're going to more zone, kicking Jarian makes more sense because, and you can correct me if this is completely stupid and out of pocket, but my understanding is in zone, like if you're going three wide or any kind of a cover two, a lot of times those outside corners are going to chase the deep route. So you need an athlete that can do that. Jarian is that can keep up with some of these guys and do all of that where there's less air quotes brain power involved than IQ involved. And I'm not saying that Jarian doesn't have IQ. I'm saying he's still a younger player. So that's kind of makes sense that when you've proven you're good enough to keep up with the Tyreek Hills of the world and doing pretty well.
I'm with you. A lot of zone turns into man, especially.
Right. So yeah,
Goodness,
I don't. Oh, okay.
Muted at one point. I apologize. But no, yeah, like a lot of zone turns into man, especially on the deeper routes. But for the most part, the less athletic guys generally can play a lot better in zone because their eyes are on the quarterback and they're not like being reactionary. They're actually reacting to both the quarterback's motions and the actual receiver's motions, like in tandem. So in that way, you might be able to get by with less athletic guys. Like, no offense, but I'm just saying it's like a Richard Sherman because they were playing that cover three because he had the outside leverage. He's looking inside. He's then able to kind of be a little bit more reactionary and use his length. But that's not the whole point of all this. I just wanted to kind of just at least point that out. That's in my defense of why I think cornerback is essential versus safety being important.
I mean, I'll say this. The essential is just, I think the injury bug thing is what sold me more than that, but they're both good points. Let's go ahead. Since we're here and we're having this conversation, let's take it up front. D tackle. Yeah. Essential. If you see my camera shaking, I'm pounding the table. Essential. You need one. You need it at a high draft pick, preferably two, so you can get that true nose tackle type big man stopper, because Devon Hamilton is on the back end of his career, and frankly, I think his time here in Jacksonville is limited. And you need better push up front. Josh Hines-Allen with only 8 sacks, I know he missed the last game, whatever, is ridiculous. And the reason why that's happening is because they're able to push all their retention there because no one's a threat in the middle. And oh, by the way, you need to stop the run better, in my opinion. I know you're throwing stats at me. Well, stopping the run wasn't that bad. Because they were in so many close games, Travis, they were beating the Jags defense down the field in predictable defensive coverages. So I think that's a lot of it too. So if you do everything right and the DBs are properly accounted for because they're essential and important, and that part is properly upgraded, you're throwing it all in the garbage because then the run can't be stopped appropriately as I'd like to see it. Travis, respond.
Interesting. This is going to be a fun conversation. I'm just going to be real. I'm going to keep it a buck. All right. So let me, instead of giving you my opinion, let me present the argument in this way. If the Jacksonville Jaguars did not draft Mason Graham at 5, let's say they got Carter, let's say they got Travis Hunter, whoever they got, and they didn't draft a defensive tackle in the second round because they had a great receiver that was on the board, etc., whatever it may be, do you still feel like this team is cooked? Like, do you still, because that's what it feels like for me when I say essential. I feel like you're really taking the dang risk.
They are, but here's the only thing that can bail them out. The depth of the defensive tackle class. If they get a guy that third round that should have gone in the first two, that's the only way they've saved themselves.
So that's where I'm like, if I'm being real, like I want to upgrade the talent that we have at that 3 technique position in maybe a Mason Graham. I want to upgrade the talent that we have at the nose tackle position where Devon Hamilton is currently, penciled in with, whatever it's a Tyleek Williams or it's Kenneth Grant or whoever it may be. But I'm also going to be real and say this, that with Eric Armstead as a 3 technique option, with Mason Graham as also Mason Smith as also a 3 technique option, and Hamilton not being bad at run stopping, I don't feel like we're necessarily cooked with a better defensive scheme. I just feel like, you know what, we should absolutely be smart to upgrade that position. But I don't know that we're necessarily in that dire, hey man, it's a 5-star alarm kind of Cook kind of situation. And that's because of that, I'm more leaning to that useful and or important category, but we can absolutely get better guys, if that makes sense.
And I'm going to bring in, we're going to get to more comments in a minute, but I'm going to bring in Hef here real quick. The question, that's the wrong one. Sorry, Robert. You're betting Smith on Smith being a better pro. I'm not, because I don't think you should leave that twisting in the wind. Let him be a pleasant surprise if he does something in camp, because you're going to need him sooner than later, because Eric Armstead is done after this coming season. Okay. So there's that as well.
And he's probably going to be like 40 to 50% of snaps anyways.
You got it. Right. So I say all of the above to say they're at that point where Hamilton's on the tail end of his time in Jacksonville, in my opinion. Eric Armstead is on the tail end of his NFL career. And on top of everything else, you don't have enough size beef, right? That nose tackle spot needs to be accounted for. And you can fix all that with fewer picks than you can with corner. You're not going to fix corner only this season. You're gonna need more time. That's just you can't help that.
You're arguing me up. You're arguing me up towards that important to essential range, especially if you're talking the fact that if you're drafting the year out. I still don't necessarily believe that it would be essential, but I am with you that at minimum it is important.
Considering
just
your
based
bias,
on this conversation,
I take an important vote as an essential vote. That's a win for Kyle.
All right, cool. I'm with you. If you don't mind, let's catch up on these comments first, and then we get back into the offense. We got a few more defensive categories to get through also.
Yeah. These next two should be relatively shorter. I don't see those as being controversial as the others were. Boy, you guys had a lot to say about defensive tackle. Holy snap!
Yeah,
see?
Man.
They don't have the bias draft. I'm kidding. Let's see. Tapa thinks CB essential, same as O-line. We'll get to O-line in a minute. That's an interesting take. Zenith, is this exclusive to this year? It's exclusive to how the Jags are approaching the draft, right? So this year is going to be like about 80% of it, in my opinion. But then when you start getting into tie breaks, like I just did for D tackle for Travis, like the future long term it kind of moves its head. It's a
snapshot. It's a snapshot of right now as we are heading into the draft and figuring out how the team build may potentially go. What do we feel like the essential areas are, or what are the no chance areas as far as that build is concerned?
Yeah, it's mostly this year, but when you start breaking it down, you got to do next year, like I did with D tackle. The coming years should break the tie, right?
If you don't mind, let me hop on this one question from Hef.
Well, I was just going to say, Hef mentioned DT was essential.
It's one from earlier. I wanted to make sure I at least give it the attention. Does the 1 year overlap with Fangio really make you think that that's what it looks like? I keep hearing it's like Flores influence. They want it in the DC. And the reason I say Fangio originally is because that's actually the first name that he brought up in his opening conference. So Correct. That's not me saying that. He said that. So if that's the words that come out of your mouth. Oh, no, he being Campanelli.
Okay.
In his original conference. So I'm going based on your words. If you believe that is one of your major influences, and whether or not, it is Flores or Fangio or a mixture of both, that is absolutely fine. Because if you want to say Flores, cool. Flores was a heavy heavy man DC in 1 year. And then in the rest of the years, he was also heavy zone. So which one would it be? Flexible. Depends on the personnel, maybe. But you have to believe if they go from a heavy man defense from a heavy zone defense to a heavy man defense, and then they change defensive coordinators again, it's probably going to be to do what Tyson Campbell does best. And what does Tyson Campbell do best? It's not even a question. It's zone. Like it's not even close. Dan Griffiths put up the stats on that throughout his career, and it's truly stark. So that's where I lean until we see otherwise, personally.
Okay, coming through more of these top mentions. Tyleek Williams at day 2. Yes, 1,000,000,000%. Yes. Robert jumps in with I think Gladstone thinks we are deeper because our rookies didn't get snaps.
And he will give those rookie snaps. That's fair.
I think that's what camp is for. It's a good point, Robert. We don't have a DT in the top 20 in win rate. That is an interesting stat, but I think that's more to the pass rush question that Travis poses, rightfully so. Hef thinks that the D is cooked without a new DB. Our new D tackle, rather. I said it wrong. Our D tackles too often we're getting pushed 5 yards up the field, and you can that. What he's saying is what I'm thinking. Correct. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Hef. Hef mentioned Eric Armstead's contract. That's absolutely right. Let's see. I'm going to need a guy to do more than look good versus Vegas, and then 10. Yeah, we hear you. We hear you, Zenith.
You got to do more than look at good versus Vegas, and 10 twice at the end of the year.
And I love the idea of banking on a 30-plus-year-old with 1 year remaining. Yeah, that's the point I was making about Armstead. Right, exactly. What's with all the Tet buzz on Twitter? We'll get to that in a minute.
That we will.
Robert screams about development. Exactly.
He does. He doesn't believe in development in Duval County, but that's the past Duval County. New Duval is this is different.
And Tapa salutes your love for the DB room, man. Trav made me proud of him today. I appreciate the love for the DB position.
Well, everybody love the O line because we invested in it, but let's talk about that DB room too. Come on, man. We all need love. Big guys, little guys, etc.
Say, Campbell plays one side of the field. Time for a replacement.
Jeez.
Wow. Right. And then Ted Buzz is so March. We'll get in the wide receiver soon enough, I'm sure. Let's wrap up the defense, Travis. What do you want to hit next?
Yes, sir. So D end, I think this is a much easier conversation to kind of have. We got Trevor Walker, we got Josh Hines-Allen, two guys who are near the top of the league as far as their the number of pressures and sacks they're able to get as a duo. I don't think that's even very difficult. I do think it would be wise for the Jacksonville Jaguars to finally get them that third rotational edge that we simply haven't had since Smoot, since oh gosh, what's the guy? The former mayor of Jacksonville that went to Tennessee Titans. I think I'm drawing a blank on his name now.
Arden Key, my guy. Arden
Key. Yes.
We all know the true mayor of Duval was Gardner Minshew, right?
Because he built Duval, right. So ever since then, we haven't had that third rotational edge, some guy to take those, to give those guys a few less snaps than that 90% range. So I would probably put that third defensive edge in that useful category, maybe even nice, like that between that nice to have and useful category. I'm probably landing useful. But what say you?
The answer is useful. The reason why I could be convinced important, I don't think so. I think we saw it in the comment. Oh yeah, Hev says important. I'm not mad at that. I'm going to say useful today because, for one, I feel like you're going to be able to get a guy that falls out during camp and bring him in. It could be Arden Key. I don't know, but he said jokingly. But, because I feel like either Josh Hines-Allen or Trayvon Walker are at that stage of their career where I think one of them is due to miss a little time.
Having that super healthy so far.
Yeah. Well, and I they've been super healthy, but we've been in the locker room after games. I feel like every game, JHA has his shoulder wrapped or something's going on. They're being asked to do a lot for this defense, and rotational stuff in this coming defense, I don't think is going to be a thing. Certainly not to the extent it was. Yeah, and Hef, I see the defense, the zero depth piece makes it important to you. I'm not mad at it. I'm putting it at useful simply because there's other elements today where the starters are just outright flat missing compared to the brethren. But I'll say this, if they make no adjustments at all in the coming season, you better bet in 26. I'm pounding the table again for defensive end.
Right. It's been important for a while, but because we've been so fortunate with the injury history, we've gotten acclimated and used to the fact that these guys never get hurt. Knock on wood, that they never get hurt. So now you're not wrong in saying that it's technically important, but also we're all right. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like if they get a third, fourth round guy that's at the rotational edge right now, I think we're all happy, and that's my overall point.
I like how Zenith puts it. The level of snaps they're forced to play is too damn high.
The rate is too damn high. Yes.
Let's get linebacker rolling,
so
Travis. I'm going to let you go first here. Yeah, I know you feel ways about this different than me. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. What do you got?
I mean, I don't have I don't have the fire and brimstone takes as far as on the linebacker room as far as that piece is concerned. Like with Fourier, he's dope, and we know Fourier is going to be great. But we also know the fact of the matter is they drafted Chad Muma to hopefully be that replacement for Fourier. Then they drafted Ventrell Miller to hopefully be that replacement for Fourier, and none of them seem to work out after extending Fourier's contract. So now I'm just like, all right, cool. Well, now we have the whole conversation surrounding Devin Lloyd and what that's going to look like moving forward with the Jacksonville Jaguars to date, not picking up his fifth-year option. I don't want to say it's necessarily super important because a lot of the times that these teams are running nickel, 60% of snaps, 50% of snaps, and it may not even matter as much when we're talking about a limited number of snaps. So with that being said, I'm probably in that useful range, maybe even nice to have if you're talking about this upcoming draft and team build. Do we need to have one right now? Like you realistically have 2 full off seasons to see if you want to bring in another guy at linebacker between this draft, this offseason, and next draft, next offseason to kind of decide where you feel about Devin Lloyd. I'm feeling okay with that. Not to mention, Ventrell's also shown promise in the 2024 season. I feel pretty solid there. I feel like I'm in that nice to have to useful range, honestly.
I am going to reject nice to have, and I'm going to do it in one way because this defense has already worked in other tiers. Foyesade Oluwakan has had over 100 tackles in the past 5 seasons and has missed very little time and is another year older. His health has been extremely fortunate. I hope it stays that way. That being said, because Father Time's an a-hole, there's no universe where I say nice to have. They need to get that linebacker core right sooner than later. Essential probably in 26 if I'm betting money. For now, it's damn sure useful because what it does is it removes the pressure from the other spots on the front that we have as high as we do, right? So there you go. I have it useful.
Yeah. So if Fourier gets hurt this year, then you probably have either Ventrell or Chad Muma filling in that spot. Obviously, you feel a little bit better about Ventrell, but nevertheless, all 3 of those guys will get snaps on the ball. I'm not going to it's not worth arguing for me, honestly. I'm right in that same range. We're in the shooting range. We'll put it at useful for now. It's a fire alarm going off, but it's a smoke alarm going off, but there's no fire happening. I got you.
I'll put it this way: somebody's poured gasoline in the general area. Like Robert here says important. Tapa says important.
I don't know, man. I feel like folks, everything's important. I think everything. If we have a reasonable or moderate opening, I think the fan base is going to, for the most part, think this is every position is important, and we got 30 holes on the team. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe. Like, I mean, I'm with you so far, but like development has got to happen somewhere eventually because we only got 10 picks in this draft. So I'm just trying to figure out where that priority lies, where that hierarchy lies.
Too, by the way, and we still won't have enough. It feels like that should tell you the state of this franchise right now. Thanks, Trent Baalke. Anyways, let's get running back, Travis.
Running back. All right, let's go. Whew. Running back. I mean, if you listen to the Duval Dive, please like and subscribe if you're listening to us right now on YouTube, on rate and review us on wherever your podcatcher is. But yes, I seriously do mean that. Just take a second. I promise to help us with the algorithm. If you listen to the Duval Dive in the past, then you know how we feel about the running back position generally. I think Kyle and I are both generally in lockstep. Travis Etienne is a great running back, back in that 2022 season, but on these past 2 seasons, he's kind of struggled in that run blocking category, kind of struggled on those interior runs for the most part. As I said, run back and pass blocking. Sorry. And Tank Bigsby is a great running back who's great at running the ball, but not the greatest at necessarily pass blocking and not the greatest necessarily at catching the ball out of the backfield. Where does that leave you? When guys are on the field, they know exactly what they're going to do. That you're literally hinting at what you're going to do so far. I think running back is a lot more important personally than many people in the fan base have kind of indicated in our conversations. I'm legitimately putting it up there in that important to useful category, and I'm probably leaning important. And I'm probably leaning important because I think we need to get off of one of these guys, to be honest.
That's a very lucid, intelligent, well thought out explanation. Overruled with all the other bleep in the room. I mean, listen, your DB bias is showing. Why? Because I think receivers definitely a bigger problem with everything that's happened, and your room's a mess. You need cheap options to turn over all the stuff for all the contract money that's about to get moved to in other places. So I'll lead with that. Nice to have is the answer, my guy. Because
so I'm not saying it has to be a high draft pick. Just to be clear, this is such a deep running back class, but it has to be invested in. There has to be, and I don't mean like a 7th round running back. That's all I'm getting at.
If it wasn't done this year, now granted, they're probably going to make the pick. We all, or at least some of us, are convinced that RJ Harvey in round 5 is going to Jacksonville. So I think, I mean, that's where I live. That's where I have lived. I've been called biased because of it and all of that. I think if you find the right guy that's intangibly rich, it's going to be fantastic. He could be useful, but because there's only so many running backs that fit this mold, T-Wig said it on the show. You agreed with it. I agreed with it. All of the above. But if you don't get somebody who can pass protect, this all is moot to me. So considering there's so little pass protection, I don't think it's as in this draft. Now, the positional need, if you want to say it's important, ish, you need one more year before I think it'll jump from useful to essential. This is what's weird about it. It'll jump from useful to essential if nothing is addressed. I'll grant you that, because Tank and Travis's future are something to it's dubious to say the least.
But a 3-down running back changes this offense. A running back who is able to adequately run the ball while being a plus in the pass protection zone or pass protection area, I think has a great possibility of kicking one of these guys off the roster. Like, I'm to that point. I'm not saying you have to be incredible running the ball, just average running the ball and being better than average at pass protection, because you weren't getting that from Dearness Johnson. You were getting a good pass protector who generally wasn't able to run the ball very well. So then, and on the other side, you have other guys who can do one thing, running the ball, and then not pass protect at all. So that's what I mean when I say telling on yourself. That's why I view it as urgent.
If you get a guy that removes the predictability, I'm feeling it. I can't take you to important, but because of the simple fact that if the Jags trade back after 12 and Ashton Genty's on the board and they don't get him at that point, I would scream, I will give you useful. That's the best I can do.
Negotiations. You got to love it, man. All right, cool. So we are going to go to, how you feel about interior line?
We can do that first.
Yeah, we in your role now. Let's talk about it.
So, I mean, I'll say what I got to say out of the way. This is incredibly hard for me to account for, because the one position I think that's truly, air quotes, in trouble that's remaining is the center. And as much as I defended Hainsey, in saying that he could be okay, I still have questions. Right? When your best answer is they know the offense, which centers should be intelligent, and your only insurance policy is a utility player or the best backup in the league last year, according to Travis, Luke Fortner, that ain't great, Bob. And I get it. The guard position needs its share of upgrades. Sheriff is gone. That's fine. The Jags have already upgraded, and Ezra Cleveland was one of the best performing linemen in the run game, or so they would tell us. Interior O-line, a lot of people are going to say essential. If it weren't for all the adjustments and acquisitions made in the offseason, I would be there. I am willing to reduce it to important because of all the adjustments made and because of I think other improvements will relieve the need to upgrade the O-line. I think the pass game is actually going to improve if the right assets are acquired.
Yeah.
And
I ain't gonna lie. I'm with you. I'm with
important?
you. I'm just be real. I'm with you. And I'm with you at important. That's exactly where I was going with it. I'm with you with the concern for Hainsey. Yeah, I'm with you with the concern for Hainsey, but at the same time, he did play better. I want to be clear. Like, he played better in Liam Cohen's offense than he did in his previous season. That resulted in him losing his role. Like, Gladstone mentioned this. Look at the Saints game. Look at the Saints tape. I did look at his Saints game. He actually did have a very good game in the 2024 season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he had already lost his job to Barton, who they drafted in the first round. And I'm like, all right, cool. So maybe he could do better in this multiple run scheme for Liam Cohen that he did in the 2023 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which, again, they were bottom of the league, but they also were bottom of the league in a bad scheme for a lot of those guys. So I don't want to throw everyone out in the bathwater just because he did struggle in the previous guy's scheme when he seemed to do better in the one that brought him to Jacksonville in the first place, right? Like, he came to Jacksonville to run Liam Cohen's scheme. So because of that, I'm a little bit less concerned, but I also don't want to see anything about Luke Fortner.
So
I'm going to be real.
You keep talking about the schemes and the runs and all the different runs. Those are only successful if guys can push. So you're actually arguing against me loosely. But
in some ways, because he does run a lot of man and gap. Like, he's not just running the one way. He's a little bit multiple, and because of that, he's a lot like the Detroit Lions, like what we expect the Chicago Bears to be. So it's not just like one or the other. Whereas Ezra Cleveland struggled for the Minnesota Vikings. That's why they got rid of him in Minnesota, which is a similar situation where they run both man and zone, man and gap. So I'm just like, I can see a situation where there might be concern for Ezra, and we're not even thinking about that because he plays so well in a different scheme in 2024 than what they'll be running in 2025. So
I'm telling you, I think it is the best ability to break into the new scheme, in my opinion. And I get the whole Minnesota struggling thing, but we don't know enough, I think, about that. For one, what the Vikings were doing at other positions wasn't exactly great. So I don't think that's all on him. I think he was not missing time, but I think he was playing hurt.
Right. He was. There you go.
Have to stop that. Okay, perfect. But yeah, I'll put the two comments that summarize my argument is Patrick McCarry is way better than Surf, an automatic upgrade.
And Robert just destroyed his last name. I'm sorry.
he corrected it later. It's all
I got you.
But then Hef mentions bringing in younger prospects to develop. Right. And if you're bringing younger prospects and not starters, it's not essential. Now, here's where the controversy comes in. Please get us ready for offensive tackle. Put that beast right there in the red.
Offensive tackle.
Put it in the red.
I know.
The reason you have to put it in the red is you've said on this show, Travis D. Holmes, you're not sure about Anton. You have also said on this show, Travis D. Holmes, that you don't know what the future looks like with Walker Little. Keep in mind, on this show, the Duval Dive, we are fans of both players. But the truth is, if you aren't sure, you have to bring in a guy that you think might beat them out. Whether it's Mimbu, whether it's Will Campbell, I don't care. You need to bring that guy in.
Yeah.
Tapa owned it. He got it, buddy. It's 100% correct. Not only have the Jags done more to address the interior line than the tackle position, not to say they've done nothing, but when you bring in a utility guy that's good enough to start at potentially 4 different positions, how good can those positions be, specifically to the tackle spot? And I'll leave it at that, man.
But that's the good point about the fact that the guys that they brought in, the 4 offensive linemen that they brought in overall, is the fact that these guys are so versatile, as far as the fact that Patrick McCarry does have experience playing tackle, and he actually played it at a reasonably high level. I'm not going to say top of the league or anything like that, but he was pretty solid. You have Fred Johnson, who played tackle for the Eagles, who, again, another guy who was reasonably solid, who is a veteran that's able to push these guys. Like, I think that's at least reasonable. Those are solid options. And then we have Adoga. Was it Adoga? I'm always going to mess his name up. Chuma Adoga, who has interior. He has experience both interior and outside, so he kind of can flip both ways. You have a lot of guys who are able to kind of give Harrison some competition as far as the ability to run block. I'm not talking about pass protection because folks keep talking about the fact that Anton's so good at pass protection, and he is, but he's also good at pass protection in a scheme that we're no longer running because we were top of the league every year under Doug Peterson and how long we had to throw the ball. We were top 5 in time to throw. That makes your pass blocking stats look better. That doesn't necessarily mean you're better than the other guys who may be in an offense that may hold the ball, like the Eagles, like the Ravens, where these quarterbacks scramble all the time, and so their pass protection stats for pressures and sacks and things of that nature may look worse. But the one thing I know is that the run blocking transfers. The run blocking is a transferable skill. No matter where you're going, if I can run block in that offense, I'm gonna be able to move guys in this other offense. Like for the most part, I feel comfortable with that. So I feel like offensive tackle is essential because if we're going to be a running team, which I believe we will be, then we have to be better at run blocking. And as it currently stands, he hasn't shown one good season up doing that. And I have questions on Walker Little's consistency. I just want to see him do it for more than 5 games, 6 games at a time.
Well, and health is the issue, right? If I'm critical of Cam Robinson when he's here of his health, I have to consider it as well with Walker Little. Too. He's missed significant time, and he's played in limited situations. You guys have feelings about this part here, so let me get through these before we get to receiver. Hopefully, we can close this out sooner than later. Let's see. Trevor and Kyle more concerned about tackle. Absolutely.
We brought in so many, but we brought in some of them who can actually be lined up as a guard or in the guard depth chart. So it may work out that we still keep 10 to 11 guys, and some of those guys have that positional flexibility where it works out that we have 5 guys who can play tackle or whatever, but 2 of them can play guard also or something along those lines.
Yeah, Zenith shouts out Donovan Jackson is a prospect, tackle, guard, flex. Sure, you like to see utility in guys that you're drafting at that point of the draft. Absolutely. Duval Paul agrees. All defensive tackle over the interior. Walker Little excels in a gap scheme. Yeah, we're not here to say that Walker Little is a bad player. We think he's overvalued. His contract's a little tall, but that's a separate question. Kevin, I need to see it.
Give me a whole season with Walker Little. Give me no injuries. Give me consistent play, and then we can have the conversation at the end of 2025 on Walker Little. But for the moment, I just don't want that to turn into the Cam Robinson contract where he's equally injured every season and equally up and down because of those injuries.
You do realize until you mentioned Cam Robinson, I was going to accuse you of copying and pasting your comments about Tyson Campbell. Anyways, Kevin Banks from Texas, trade back and get him. He's the best OT in the draft. I don't know that he might be the best tackle in the draft, Tapa. I think I like Membu better because, not as a prospect, he's not a tackle, I get it. But I think I like Membu better because he's that more power-based guy. We need somebody like that there too, who can also happen to pass block. I think that I'm
shocked neither of you are talking about Will Campbell. Like, that's crazy. I thought Will Campbell's shown for longer.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, no, I feel like Campbell's such an obvious, yes, please get him conversation. But yeah, like for me, if Campbell falls out and it's him versus Graham, 1,000,000,000% Will Campbell.
Well, Topa was saying, that Kevin Bates is the best offensive tackle in the draft. And I'm like, maybe.
No, I get it. There are some people that I think there's some analysis paralysis going on with Campbell. They've heard his name so much, they're starting to question it. So, I mean, it's a thing, Harrison got significantly better from week 11 on. I would also ask you to look at the opponent from week 11 on.
That's it. We expected the team to get better after that point in the season also, and there was a reason for that.
And then Little was an upgrade from Cam Robinson. Yeah, I mean, that we also agree with. I think the way that worked out.
I was an upgrade for Cam Robinson. Like, that's not saying much, but sure.
Wow. He's a Texan and everything. I get the petty is real, but goodness. Banks is going sooner than you think. What few OTs there are going to get gobbled up early? Yeah, I think that's
I
fair.
agree with that, Jenna. Yeah.
Funny how that coincides with Walker Little beginning to start. Yeah, no, that's an interesting point too, Hef. I like that. Trevor swayed
those pass protection stats running for his life.
Well, if he had played longer in the season, I would have granted that. When you're getting stone-footed Mac Jones back there, that's a separate conversation. Jones. Yeah. But I mean, if you're talking about 23, hell yeah, Robert, for sure. We've had that conversation on this show, my man. Let's see. Y'all are debating each other. I love to see that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Unless you are comfortable developing offensive tackle, we'll have to be 5 or 36. I don't know what that means. Sorry, Zenith.
Yeah, I feel like it's the 2013 draft tackle class all over again. The Hef. I'm like, okay, cool.
I'm not there yet. Yeah.
Yeah, they were arguing with each other. I wasn't trying to post all the comments back and forth. But
I want a 5 tackle O line like the Eagles. I mean, if you got them, I won't rule that out. Let's see.
Hey, man, the Eagles are a hard team to compare against because they do things like that most teams can't do because they don't have the funds to do it in that way. And I'm not saying Schott doesn't. I'm saying they allow their general manager to do things that most owners just won't. They're borrowing against the future and everything else and turning things into options. That's a different category of team building that most teams just aren't going to be able to do.
You have to do that with an existing GM, not a new one. That's why we're not having that conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So, Gray Zabel is also a bully. We agree, Robert. I don't think we have to have that conversation again. Oh, gotcha. Zena's saying he's trying to say offensive tackle will have to be addressed early. Hey, listen, past 2 mocks where we had a 3-man mock, we got Mimpu. Yeah. We feel you, homie. What's up?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Receiver.
So to wrap this bad boy up, and the Jacksonville Jaguars draft needs tier maker. We end with the wide receiver room for the Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously led by now sophomore receiver Brian Thomas Jr. We don't have very many questions on him now, do we? But as far as the overall room, what do you land, sir?
Considering the fact, unless you're counting Travis Hunter, considering the fact that generally speaking, you nor I in mocks, there's some standouts where somebody made us an offer that was too good to refuse because they fell too far. Generally speaking, I don't start looking at receivers till 3 in the draft. You got Brown, you got BTJ. I think that's a pretty good pair. And then that you're really kind of looking for those, you don't know what you're getting out of Gabe Davis. Parker Washington, okay, he's a good 4th receiver, I suppose, and you're trying to figure out the other couple spots. Yep. Useful with a side of important is what I'll say. Because you got to get somebody just because you got to physically fill the room, but the person you get won't be seeing the field all that often, which is why I put special teams where I did. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say useful for wide receiver.
I could be argued for the wide receiver room right now. And actually, we're going to have it on Monday. Tuesday, the Dyami Brown conversation. We'll talk about that on the audio only Duval dive on, I believe it will be Tuesday of the draft. I took a look at all of this
Tuesday, right?
Yeah, on wherever your podcatcher is. I took a look at every single target for Dyami Brown in the 2024 season, and I took a look at every single target for Chris Godwin in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, because I wanted to get a grasp of what exactly they were trying to do with that signing. And I have a feeling, you know what? I'm not going to ruin it. Just take a look. Let's take a listen on Tuesday when it drops. Yeah. But I think I see what they were going for, because he being Liam Cohen already mentioned it at the NFL's owners meeting. A lot of the benefits that Dyami gives the offense, and he hammered down the fact that there was a lot of screen passes, and I'm like, well, that's right. Washington did a lot of that. So we'll get into it in depth, but I'm not going to ruin it. But at the end of the day, I can be argued all the way from nice to have to important on this wide receiver room, because it's truly there. It just depends on how much you have confidence in Dyami Brown and where he's going to land in this offense. Because Dyami Brown is your number 3 receiver. If you were to draft a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds of this draft, you'd feel ecstatic about. But Dyami Brown is your number 2 receiver with the limited number of receptions, the limited career path that the limited numbers he's shown you in his career so far. That's a hard thing not to say. I'm taking a risk into this 2025 season. I would probably have to put it in that useful to important range, just because I think they have to get a guy at least to start that developmental process, and maybe even if it'd be great if they put him in, a top 2 round guy. But I'll probably put him in that useful category. Again, I think it could be argued to be important. If you were to give me someone like a Tech McMillan, someone like a Matthew Golden, someone like I don't know, the guy from Ohio State. Like, if you were to give me one of those guys, it changes. Yeah, it changes this whole offense, and I think that will be great for this offense. So because of that, I'm probably putting in that useful category. I know some of the guys in the comments are already in disagreement. Robert thinks it's important. Duval Paul believes that it's nice to have. I'm probably right at that useful mark, and again, that could be argued both ways. It really does depend on how much you feel like Dyami is going to be able to give you this season. Is he going to be playoff Dyami, or is he going to be the regular season for the Washington Commanders Dyami?
Yeah, I mean there's so many unknowns. It's hard to place it. What you're saying makes sense. Like I said, I could be convinced that a nice to have. I think you did it. And when it comes time, if they are hurt late against the Packers, and they're coming out with an ace formation and 2 wide receivers, like, who actually is playing if BTJ and Dyami are out, and even if it's just BTJ, then you still kind of feel pretty screwed, so I see where you're going. This could be, I could argue that this could be a breakout year for Dyami. We don't know. I was going to call that comment up too. We got our Batman, just need some Robins. Unfortunately, you got more green arrows for now, it looks like, So,
Robert Cohen is like Gabe who, man, you are destroying everybody's name. Cohen is.
Listen, I talked about this. What is this? 3 days ago on Tuesday, about Gabe Davis. He tells me he's going to be at camp. That's what I can confirm. So there you go.
Duval Paul. I think we'll get a guy in the 3rd, and we will be set.
Yeah, we have mocked that before.
So, no, I think we're in agreement. Like, that's the point. Robert, again, from the top rope with Brown, deep opening underneath BTJ out of the slot will be fire. So Dyami Brown taking the top off the defense with BTJ out of the slot, eating up all those.
Travis Hunter on the other side. Let's go. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. All right, cool. Zenith bringing back that 2024 Cephas season. Cephas time. Oh man, you never know, man. These guys can develop, so you don't ever want to just pretend that that development cannot happen with these guys. So that's their point. Good call out, Zena. Genty and Tank in a duo backfield.
And you thought I was on drugs. So listen.
Yeah. He acknowledged that he had some good meds though, at least. So that's there. Robert's ahead of the curve, and he owns it. He knows what this is. So for those audio listeners, we have completed our Jacksonville Jaguars draft needs tier maker. Feel free to go to tiermaker.com and search the Duval Dive Jacksonville Jaguars draft needs tier. It is there for you to kind of have your fun and make your own. Share it on the socials. Let us know what you think. As wrapping this thing up, we have cornerback and offensive tackle as our only 2 essential areas where we feel like it may be urgent that they get one of these guys in one of these early to mid rounds.
Where are the people that accuse us of bias? They get on our butts about Harvey, but our position groups are marked essential. No one's calling that out, really? This is what we're doing? Come on, y'all.
As far as important, we labeled safety, defensive tackle, and interior O-line are the 3 positions. And then in that useful category, defensive end, linebacker, running back, and wide receiver. The special teams category was the only quote unquote nice to have label. And what you said 2?
Oh no. I'm air quoting you. Nice to have.
Nice to have. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we put quarterback mainly because of the backup quarterback situation and tight end in that luxury category. So again, the Jacksonville Jaguars were to draft someone, like a Tyler Warren or what's the other guy, Loveland, Colston Loveland from
Hunter,
Michigan, then
from Texas.
Mason Taylor, whoever it may be, then that would be considered, at least from my perspective, closer to that luxury pick. But nevertheless, that's where we are. And as far as no chance, kicker, Cam Little, or punter. And for the most part, that wraps it up. I know the Jaguars did have a meeting. What was it, at the combine with a punter? And I thought that was weird. But nevertheless, I'm still putting it into that no chance category. I think that's just not happening unless we have an injury at our punter position. That's just how I personally feel. Do you have any thoughts on that, sir?
No, you lined that up very nicely. That'll do it for our team needs tier list. We'll do more tier lists if you guys have ideas for it. We got no problem servicing you, Duval, devout in such a fashion. But Travis D. Holmes, tell the world where you can be found. Thank you, Duval Paul. We are glad to
Duval Paul. You know where you can find me, hey, man, all the socials, Travis D. Holmes, whether it's Blue Sky, X, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. You can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, BigCatCountry.com. We're going to have you guys covered. Obviously, draft week's coming up. So we're going to have all the coverage with the additional prospect breakdowns. Also, stay tuned for the breakdowns of the players that's actually selected. Anything that we may hear, heading up into the draft in these final days. And yeah, if there are any pressers coming up, we will let you know and have you have summaries on all of that. But BigCatCountry.com. Again, like and subscribe us for the Duval Dive on YouTube, on wherever your social, your podcatcher is. And we will have at least, if not, we should have a lot of content for you guys next week, honestly. We're going to have content on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like it's going to be a lot. So just keep it locked in, stay tuned. What about you, Kyle?
And also responding live to instant reactions on Thursday after the first round. So like we got you set up for the draft week. Man, get your beer. We got some drafts. Boom. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a Student of the Game. Check out my writings with the Fans First Sports Network, covering not only your Jacksonville Jaguars, but the Orlando Magic will be in the playoffs, facing the Boston Celtics during the coming week. So make sure you check that out, as well as my work covering the UCF Knights, the Black and Gold Banneret, the Night Shift podcast, as well as the Night Shift YouTube channel. All of that, I have draft profiles going up. You might, for those of you who wonder what I think about RJ Harvey, somebody else will be writing about him. That will drop during next week. And make sure you check out other stuff. Kobe Hudson, other players out there out of UCF that are in the draft mix. Me and the Black and Gold Banneret team provide you that insight of where we think they should fall in the NFL. So for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, you commenters out there who continue to kick entire fields of ass, thank you very much for that. Of course,
yes,
Lord. Kyle Nash, the Student Game,
intangibly rich.
Intangibly rich, yes, 100%. Well done. Intangibly rich comments everywhere. Listen, I might get my diabetes worked up. It's that rich. Anyway, so until next time, everyone, look out for Mock Draft Monday with Travis for the final time. And until then, everyone, class dismissed.